So how you been? How are things going?
Yeah, good.
Yeah? How's your year starting off?
You know, it's always slow in January,
Right.
and February, but yeah, it's picking up. I'm surprised. I thought it wouldn't. I thought with the rates going up,
Right.
that March wouldn't be that much better than January, but it is. I think it's actually having the opposite effect. I think it's getting some people off the fence
Yeah.
and pushing them. I have a lot of people frantically calling me. I heard rates are going up. Are they going to keep going up? Yeah, I think they're going to keep going up. I really do think they're going to keep going up.
Well, and now we're at that point in the industry where everyone's saying that rates are going up, right? Like
right. That's what I tell people is I listen to, right, we subscribe to these websites.
Sure.
And Barry Hibbs, and I pay people to read the market for me. And usually they don't all agree, right?
Right.
But right now they all agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I know when it first started happening because, I mean, this goes back to November during the election, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's when we first started kind
Brutal,
of
right
seeing it.
after that,
Oh,
yeah.
my gosh. It was like, and it wasn't even like gradual. It was just like the next day, like, boom, okay, hey, here you go. And I know that like a lot of people, I want to say, kind of tried to look the other way or do what they had to do to compete. Or,
La, la, la.
yeah, like I don't know what you're talking about. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's like finally everyone's like, okay, yeah, this isn't going away.
This is happening,
This
right?
is where we are.
Well, before 2008, we were healthy 6.5%, and that was normal. So it makes sense that we're gonna get back there, but people are free. You know, I think you have a whole generation of people who've come into the market as first-time home buyers or young people who only know rates in the 3s and 4s.
Exactly.
Right, since 2008 to 2017, or cover 2018.
Right.
You have, for the last 10 years, so you have some millennials that are just like, what do you mean 6%?
Right.
But in my day, 6%, you know.
I was talking to somebody the other day, and they weren't complaining, but they were concerned because they were getting a quote, and it was like 475, right?
Yeah.
And I looked at him, and I'm like, let me go. My first house was at 8.5, and I was like totally stoked at that, you know. And then I got to refinance it like a year and a half later to 6, and I thought I'd hit the lotto. You know.
Well, so we hear stories of like our parents talking about rates in the teens in the 80s.
Yeah.
That's their story. I had a rate at 3.125, right? When I refied at the bottom of the market in 2012. Right. That's going to be my story to my kids. We used to have rates in the 3.
Right?
Exactly.
I remember when.
I used to have a house financed at 3, but that's going to be a thing of the past, just like 18% is a thing of the past. Yeah.
Exactly. And then their story to their kids will be, I remember having to tell my watch to turn the lights off in my living room. You know?
And now it just does it for me. I just think what I want.
Yeah, now I just wear this little chip behind my ear.
Exactly.
And I'm good to go.
I have the Hey Google. Do you have that?
Oh, okay. So I'm an Apple fanboy.
Oh. Well, Apple doesn't have a version of that,
Actually, we do. It's not as or I should say they do. It's that HomePod. But it's not as...
Never heard of it.
It's really cool. I just picked one up. It's their version of like a smart speaker, but it's not as smart as like an Alexa or a Google Home yet. They've got to do some more software updates, but, you know.
But when they get there, it'll probably take over the market.
I feel like it kind of will. Like it's, you know, it's typical them. Like I've got it wired to my HomeKit devices, so I got the Philips Hue smart lights and all this other stuff. Yeah, so it's like, you know, I can sit on the couch and be like, okay, you know, hey, blank, because I don't want to activate her for this, but, you know, hey, blank, you know, set the lights to movie mode. And
so my Google is connected to my Nest.
Okay.
So I literally, I can wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
In the bathroom and go, hey, Google, turn the heat on in the living room. And it does. And I've become so dependent on that. When I go in the kitchen, I literally say, hey, Google. And then oh, wait a minute, it's not in here. I need to get one for every room. I've told my husband.
That's how they get you.
That's how they get. I'm now I have to know what the weather is at all times. I have to be able to. Eventually, they're going to build houses, and it's going to be part of the wiring.
They already started.
Yeah.
Like it's already
movies with,
Well, here in Austin, I think it's more on the super higher level You know,
but it seems
the
like
extreme
such
custom.
a cheap system to put in
Well,
some houses, right?
So like down, because I cover the valley too, right? Like Laredo all the way down through Corpus, and there's a builder down there that I'm working with who their whole thing is they do modern style construction because that's becoming very popular down there, but also smart. So
homes.
Nest already built in.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's going to be a must eventually.
It really is. I mean,
I can't live without,
to think about, it's like, okay, I want my temperature at this degree when I go to bed and this degree when I wake up. Dude.
But it's really also helped my, we have propane in my neighborhood, which nobody told me before I got there that, you're going to have $600, $700 months in the winter.
Yeah.
And it's really cut that down a lot because it thinks for you. You know, it doesn't keep it heating all the time. It knows when you've left.
Yep.
It turns it off. It knows when you've come back.
It's crazy.
It turns it back on. So it's really lowered my heating bill just so it's, for energy efficiency. I think they're a must. They pay for themselves.
They're amazing. And I haven't gone to Nest yet, but I promise you, like, I will control my entire house from the phone before it's over with. The locks.
Oh, you're going to love
the
Nest.
Camera. Yeah. My brother-in-law has that one. And yeah, like, he's already got me spoiled, but I started off, I don't know why, but it was like I got hooked on the Philips Hue thing. Have you done that?
What is it?
Philips Hue lights.
Oh, the lights that go,
yeah.
They can be controlled.
Oh my gosh. Dude, it's crazy. So like, just like the Nest, when you leave your house, you can set it to where it's like, okay, certain lights turn on. And then when you're arriving to your home, other lights will turn on.
They turn on for you.
Yeah, like it's just, you walk in and it's there and it's ready. Or, if you forget to do something, like, bam, you can do it from, downtown and you live in Cedar Park or whatever. So it's just cool.
That's how houses are going to be built in the future. And I don't think it's that futuristic, right? I think it's literally in the next couple years. They're just going to have Nest and those light bulbs, and then...
I mean, it's only, $150 for the Nest or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it's
like $200.
It's overall, it's affordable.
Totally worth it.
Especially for what it's going to save you long term. So, hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Big B Mortgage Podcast. That little 7-minute segue was basically... Oh, you didn't even know. See? Look how comfortable you were.
I thought we were just easing into it.
Oh,
I didn't know we were taping.
No, we've been recording the whole time.
Funny. Okay.
This is good stuff. See? Now look at you. Your body language is shifting on me. Come on now. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a very special guest in the chair today. Her name is Tera. Did I say that right? Tera Gilbert with the Tera Gilbert mortgage team.
Loans by Tera.
Loans by Tera.
My logo says, but
so sorry I screwed that up.
I'm actually thinking about renaming them. I'm redoing my logo to just say just says Terra Gilbert for my website. Yeah. Because I will tell you why. Because my logo is Loans by Tera, and then my address, vanity address is Loans by Tera. I get more calls for people trying to get personal loans or paycheck loans.
Oh no!
I have no idea where I'm at or how. So I was like, I really need to rebrand myself. Clearly, they don't understand that I'm home loans. So I was like, well, I'll just rebrand my name and make it very
all you gotta
clean.
do, right? Here's the $1 billion idea. Instead of the Facebook, it's just Facebook.
There you go.
So instead of Loans by Tera, it's Home Loans by Tera.
Yeah.
Boom. You're welcome.
There you go.
Leave a check for $100,000 on the way out.
Logo for me. That's the big money.
Yeah, you don't want that. Hold on. I think I got some crayons laying around here somewhere. So thanks for coming in and sitting in the chair today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Am I the first female mortgage person?
No.
I'm not.
You're not. No, but you are the most important right now.
Okay, I didn't see any. But you have some that are in the future that haven't been put out there.
I do. Because, and the people who listen to this know the story. I mean, it took me 6 months to get enough courage built up to actually start releasing them. Because I'm one of those classic cases. Like, I was like, oh my God, I sound terrible. And, I
don't even want to listen to this when we're done. I'm never going to.
Hey, as long as you like and share it, that's fine with me. Like, you do what you need to.
I don't even know. Can I tell you a story, really just side note?
Yes.
And you can edit all this out because it has absolutely nothing to do with mortgages, but it's podcast. So it's a very serendipitous story.
I like that word.
I had heard serendipitous.
Look at you.
And I may not be using that correctly, and if I'm not...
Home Loans by Tera is breaking out the $3 words for the Big V podcast.
So I had heard about podcasts. I had no idea what a podcast was, how it operated, where to even go to hear a podcast. It just, the format, I knew nothing about it. I went to dinner about a week ago with my girlfriend, who at dinner just raved about this podcast called How I Built It with Guy Raz. I don't mean to...
No. Plug away. No.
But it's an NPR thing, right?
Right.
She went on, and she had to actually grab my phone and show me how to subscribe to and listen to a podcast on the app. And after that, if you ever listen to it, How I Built It, Guy Raz interviews people like Michael Dell or the people who created, not Facebook, but really Compact is on there and Home Depot. Anyways, it's the whole story of how I built it, what my challenges were, how I was at the right place at the right time. I literally got done listening to my very first podcast, which I actually went to a Teach for America, which is a nonprofit. So that was the first one I listened to. That's a really interesting story. You called me about an hour later and said, "Hey, you want to be on my podcast?"
Really?
Yes. If it was a week earlier, I would have been, no. I don't have any interest in that. But I felt like something's happening here. And I literally had texted my girlfriend right before you called me and said, "I love this podcast. This is great. You need to listen to this." And then you called me and asked me to be on the Austin version of How I Built It. And I thought, well, I don't think I can be as interesting as those people, but I'm going to go do this because something's going on here.
I tell you what, it's amazing because the cool part is there are other mortgage and real estate related podcasts. I mean, if you go onto iTunes and you just search that, there are others. My goal in it is the mechanics of why you're successful are important, right? Like the daily disciplines, if you will. But moreover, everyone's got just a very unique story, and there might be some similarities in there, but I mean, if you liked any of my stuff that you listened to before, I can promise you that the stuff that's getting ready to come out is going to be even better because, I mean, the stories are getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And so now it's spawning into these other side podcasts. I want to do one called the Mentor Memoirs, where I go back and I interview all of my mentors along the way of getting to where I am.
Yeah, mentors are very important in this
Aren't
business.
they?
In this business, for sure.
Yes.
There's so much to know. So much to know.
Well, and I got to be honest, I feel like there's kind of a shortage of really good mentors out there.
There are. I would say especially for women.
Right.
Right? Because the mentors are people that you work for. All my mentors are typically men. But that's a tough relationship with men and women in the industry, right?
Right.
So it's hard to go and seek out your mentors.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I think there's a really good piece on it in Lean In, which is Sharon Sandberg's book, but about, not enough mentors for women. But I agree, you need mentors in this business because there's so much to know, not just on the sales part of it, right?
Right.
But really just structuring loans.
Oh,
and the creativity. You just need to get with a good person and stick with. I mean, I still call some of my old mentors that have left the company I work, they're 3 companies later, and I still call them and go, "Okay, here's a deal I have. What would you do here?" And you kind of have to have those people in this business because it's like putting a puzzle together.
Well, and that goes back to that power of relationships, right? Those relationships go above and beyond the name that's on the marquee out front, right? Yeah. Everything starts with a relationship, and then it kind of spawns off into wherever it goes. But what you said about a shortage of mentors for women, I'm curious about. Can you go a little deeper?
Is this going to go on your mentor podcast?
Well, I'm curious.
No, they're really, because there's, let's be honest, there's always that perception.
Right.
If a woman seeks out a man, or even if a man seeks out, the woman in the office place and creates that mentor relationship, you're just drawn to each other. You really like the way each other works, and there's always going to be that perception.
That gray area, or what?
Well, of how everybody else in the office views it, right? Why?
I see what you mean.
I think the older I get, either the less I care. I mean, I'm almost 40.
Mm-hmm.
Either the less I care about that, or I think the less people really think that because you're married and you have kids and stuff. But definitely for young women coming up, it's tough because either A, you seek out the mentors, and sometimes.
They're scumbags.
Well, no, they're just regular, I don't like to judge. They're just regular people, but they think, oh, well, maybe she's seeking me out for this reason.
Yes.
And you kind of have to be strong,
right,
in your conviction of no, I want your help.
I really just need business advice.
I do, yeah. I really like you. I really do admire you, but I'm not flirting with you.
Right.
I really am. I like to be around you. I want to hear everything you have to say. I want to soak it all up. But that's it, right? But but then I think outside of that, I think a lot of women struggle with is the perception of
the way the others see
women,
it, or what?
Yeah, of the male-female mentor relationship.
Okay.
Because the closer you get, there's always going to be that perception of how they see it. And what if, the male is your superior? Mm-hmm. I think in this business, you don't worry about that as much because even your superiors are not really your superiors, right? You still kind of run your own show. They don't have a lot of say over, how successful you are. But yeah, I think that's a real issue with mentors, with women with mentorships. Yeah.
I see where you're coming from with that. See, and I'll be honest, like being where I am now, like having, upwards of like 30 some people and many of them females, because again, sorry guys, but historically women are always way better salespeople than men.
I think so too.
Well, I'm sure you do.
I think people instinctively trust women more than men, which makes
it's a maternal thing.
I think we just have I think it's a little easier.
Or do you think it's like that sincerity through the emotion versus sometimes how the men can kind of just be like, look, these are the facts?
Well, no, because I feel like that's the way I work. I feel like I always say I'm not a good salesperson because I'm not. I'm not a good salesperson. What I am is a good educator. Okay. That's kind of my style. And I've definitely, I used to be a wholesale rep in the business. We'll circle back around to like
wholesale?
How it all started. But as a wholesale rep, you obviously work with all the brokers, right? And all the personalities. And I've seen them all from the boiler room offices, whereas that's where I came up, was in one of those offices in a call center, to just the really, numbers guys who have almost like no sales ability, just straight dry. So being a wholesale rep, you get to see all the different sales styles. But yeah, I would say I don't have any sales style. My philosophy is just to educate the client, make sure that they come out of it feeling confident that they know everything there is to know, that they can make the choice, right? Rather than just going, this is the best loan for you. It's like, well, here, I'm going to throw this out there and tell you all the pros and cons. And I always tell people, I'm probably going to tell you more information than you want to know. Right. And if you don't want to know all of it, let me know. But I would say 95% of the people are soaking it up. I mean, you have doctors and lawyers who realize they don't know the first thing about a mortgage, and everybody's nervous when they're in this process because they don't have the knowledge. And I think everybody just wants the knowledge. Right. So I think that I'm a lot more of I'm just going to give you the facts, but also there is a part of our job that is we're like little bit of a therapist, right?
Oh, girl, don't get me started.
Because it is a stressful process for people.
Yep.
It's stressful for me.
I've seen marriages almost end over it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, and then not to mention the fact that some of the time when we're involved, it's because the marriages are ending, right? Yep. Your clients call you back, I'm getting divorced. Yep. She needs to buy a home. I need to buy a home. Can you help both? I mean, you do get involved in the most personal part of people's lives, right?
You're all up in their Kool-Aid.
You do. You know why. I mean, very sad stories from clients recently, and I know why they're moving. I know why they're selling, why they're buying, So I think maybe being a female helps because we are a little bit more empathetic. But, yeah, I do think that you do kind of have to just give the information and the facts in this business. Right. I mean, there's definitely a lot of men, and I would say more men, that are successful because of their sales skills. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can be sold pretty easily. Like, I can sit across from somebody, I can walk away and go, man, I really need to do that. I know I can be swept up into it too, but
do you find, like, being in sales, do you find yourself whenever you're going to buy something, and maybe it's a car, maybe it's a home. Are you looking for that good salesperson?
I am. I'm like,
right?
Sell me.
Oh, dude.
I love the kiosk guys in the mall.
Oh, yes.
Those
I never buy
are
crap
the
from them.
hardest
But those dudes
sellers.
hustle.
I'm like, talk to me. I want to hear it. I like it. It doesn't annoy. My husband gets so annoyed with it, right? He's an engineer, and it's just like, doesn't want to hear people talk. And I love the confident, they say this, I don't know, same thing every day, but they will try, especially like the hair stuff they're trying to
yes.
sell.
I've been pitched everything from henna tattoos to body lotions to whatever else they've got going on. I remember once they almost, because I'm a healthy looking boy, right? They were trying to get me up on one of those like scooter thingies when they were first coming out. And the dude almost had me on it, but then like my wife, luckily she was there and she was like, babe, that is not going to end well for you. So we just kept going. But yeah, I'm the same way. Perfect example, yesterday we've been talking about getting our daughter, who is graduating and going to college, like we've been talking about getting her a new car, right? Because she's going to go to Sam Houston University, and well, daddy doesn't want to be worrying about baby girl driving back and forth to Houston and something with too many miles on it. So instead of going and doing the whole like hardcore negotiation, I did all that research stuff up front. I showed up and I told the guy, look, I'm going to make it real easy on you.
Yeah.
Like, this is the car. Sell it to me. Don't rip me over the coals. Don't throw any fancy jargon at me. Let's just make the deal that I want, and we're good. I literally bought the car in like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm
not that good at that.
And I was totally content with it. But I'm looking for that salesperson who is, not too pushy but not too cheesy.
Right.
You know what I mean? But yeah, that good
Just
pitch.
give me the information and give me all the facts. I will say, though, and my husband would definitely agree, I go in with my plan. I've done all my research. I've even emailed several different lots.
Right.
And gotten there. But then ultimately I walk in, I'm like, oh, I want that shiny one on the floor. How much is it?
Yes.
Oh, it's extra? That's fine. That's the one I want. It's got the bow on it. Okay.
That's it. Yeah. That bow makes all the difference,
all that
doesn't it?
reason goes out the door when I want to buy like a big ticket item. So I'm probably not as good at that as I should be.
Well, and I'm not even saying I made a great deal. I'm just saying, like,
maybe for my kid's car, I'll be a lot more pragmatic about it.
I was just like, look, dude, this is where we're going. You can either get on the bus or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And he was great. He was great. Although I will say, while we were waiting on them to wrap up like some of the paperwork or whatever, we're going through that inevitable waiting period. I always call it the power play. Right?
Yeah, and I don't have patience for that. I'm like, I'm going to go get something to eat. I'll come back.
Yeah.
I know where I want to get my financing.
Just call me when you're done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or why don't you just bring me the car and I'll sign. And you can get it. You can Uber back to your dealership.
I don't have patience for that.
Well, we unfortunately were being patient last night. And if you ever meet my wife, she'll tell you, man, like after about 15 minutes, I'm just like, I'm done. Like, oh, this is stupid. Like, why am I waiting? Why am I waiting? Like, I'm so important, right? But the point is the guy looks out and he's like, sees my car and he was like, hey, how you like the BMW? And I'm like, oh, I love it. Da 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 da. And I was like, yeah. He goes, well, one day I'll show you our version. And I was like, okay, all right, buddy. Mm-hmm. And so he walks me over and he shows me their higher end model, and it was beautiful.
Oh,
it was beautiful, but. He was like, yeah, and we could really, and I'm like, dude, just stop.
Just stop.
We're good.
Right.
You're getting one car out of me today. Be good, and maybe I'll come back.
Mm-hmm. Well, what kind of dealership was it? What kind of car were you getting there?
I got her a Hyundai Tucson.
Okay, so I will say there is definitely a difference, right? Like if you go to a Lexus dealership,
yeah,
then from going to like a Honda dealership, it's a different style of sales.
Oh, yes.
They're not hard sales. They're more a relationship over time. I want to make you feel comfortable with me because you're going to buy the next 5 cars from me. Mm-hmm. And it's different, right? Don't you feel like it's different?
Completely. Like, let's put it this way. I still have the guy who sold me my car on speed dial.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Like, and I'll go back to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm happy with the brand and the whole 9 yards. So I will go back to him. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
And I have no idea who sold me, my Mercury, whatever that I bought, that dealership. And I remember that experience being a lot more painful.
Yeah.
For some reason than my experiences later on in life buying, Mercedes or Lexus. I don't know. There's something to that, right? It's a different type of sales.
I completely agree. Like, they're training them differently, I think. But all right. So we've talked about a lot of stuff already.
Yeah.
But the thing
there's my sales style. I just go
right.
Just talk.
I'm loving this, man. Like, you're gonna be a multi-episode guest. I can already see it. So, as you may have picked up, I like to talk about people's past. I like to hear your story, right? How did you get to where you are? And usually it starts off with, was mortgage lending your first sales job?
Right. Yeah, the origin story.
Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing too, not to stretch your answer out too much, but those podcasts
the time you want.
Those podcasts that I've been listening to, How You Built It, with people from WeWork, where they're worth $17 billion today, to all the way down to Teach for America, which is a complete nonprofit. Everybody seems to have the same story. It's a little bit of dumb luck, like right place at the right time, right? But luck is opportunity and preparation, right?
When preparation meets opportunity.
They all have that same kind of origin story. It's a little bit of dumb luck and a little bit of brass balls. Like, I saw the opportunity.
Get it, girl. Give me some Glenn Gary on the podcast.
You don't have to bleep that out?
No, surely, I don't.
Okay. I'm like, surely your listeners are going to have heard worse.
I've had people drop worse.
Okay. But really, right? You have to see the opportunity. You have to be able and willing to seize it and just see, like, this is what I want and go for it. Anyways, I obviously did not create a $17 billion company or, a $300 billion nonprofit, but it's the same kind of thing. So I was waiting tables. I was in college. I always say I've always worked commission because it was either waiting tables or this. So I was in college and I was waiting tables, and it's back when anybody could buy a house, right? You're hearing, I'm 22, huh?
Right? I'm checking my pulse.
Yeah.
You're approved.
You're approved.
As long as I got a pulse, you're good. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah. I was lending in those days too. But you would hear everybody's buying a house. I was 20, I think I was maybe 25, not 22. And I was like, well, I'm going to buy a house. I don't have any money. I'm waiting tables. My credit's decent. I always had good credit, but I'm going to buy a house, right? Because you're 25. You don't know any better. And I'm such an A-type personality. I want to know the answers. I'm going to have lots of questions. And both my agent and my lender at the time either didn't know or didn't care to answer any of my questions. Oh. It was so frustrating to me. So I went to a friend of mine. Well, this guy I knew, not really a friend, just kind of in passing. And he was, this is what was going on in the industry at the time. He was a welder by day, and was sort of on the side. He was a loan officer, right? Because back then everybody was a loan officer on the side.
I've got a story for you.
And so I went to him and I'm like, I'm just so overwhelmed. I really want to know all this stuff. Will you answer my questions? And he said, no, I want you to go get your license. Go get your license. He had been telling me for a while, you need to get your license and stuff. Fine. He said they have classes. He told me where to go. And that weekend I went to a real estate school, right?
Yeah.
And it took a weekend course.
And
I literally went with the intention, I took my package and I was going to use my package as a test case. I felt like it was $150 to take the class. That was cheaper than talking to an attorney, and I was going to leave there with answers, whether they liked it or not.
I love the way you perceive that.
And so, and I was in college at the time, so taking another course that week, whatever, I'll just throw another little class in there. And literally, at the end of the weekend, you have a certificate, and you're a mortgage consultant.
There it is.
Right? That's it. And I had no intentions of becoming a mortgage consultant, but in the class, there were some guys there, back to those boiler room guys, that they were coming to get their license. And I think you didn't need your license before if you worked for a bank, but they were going to get their license, and they, recruited me basically. You have to come do this, come talk to our manager. The next week I went in and talked to the manager. They were offering $2,500 a month draw. Didn't even know what that meant, draw, but I knew $2,500 a month was a lot of money. And I was like, okay, I can do this, and I can go to school, and because it was sort of flexible, right? So you can come in, and it's a call center, which you work 9 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Yeah.
So I could go to school at the same time and come in, and I literally just thought, well, I'm going to do this till I finish school, and I'm going to take their $2,500 a month, and I'm going to, run with it. But I liked it, right? I got there.
Yeah.
And, learning DTI and LTV on my lunch break. And
APR.
Yeah, I didn't know. I'm not selling people, and I literally have no idea what I'm talking about, right? But my manager, he was, a great mentor. He put that book down in front of me with the guidelines. You remember the big book because it was subprime back then.
Oh, God.
It was like, well, let me flip to the mortgage-only program. Let me flip to the... And I really liked the guidelines. Like, that stuck with me. Like, to me, again, it was like putting a puzzle together.
Right.
It was like, well, let me look it up and let me see how to make this work, and sort of back then manipulate the guidelines to make a deal. And, I like talking to people, because a lot of the clients that we talked to, you were buying leads, and they had really bad credit. They had been told no. They were probably going to get screwed over by some guy being sold 5 points on the phone. Mm-hmm. And I liked helping them. I liked listening to their story and coming and saying, oh, I can do this, and I can do this, fairly for you, and I can make this work. And no, you don't have to do that. I can do it this way. This guy's
Mother Teresa mortgage lending.
I think I was just doing it at that point because I really liked it. But then, 3 months into it, I got my big first paycheck, right? I think that's why we're still here today. And I was 2 semesters away from graduating college. I'd been going for 6 years or something. And going back to college, my background in college was I went for elementary education. So there's and then I switched. I probably had enough credits to almost graduate. And then I thought, well, I want to make some money in my life. So I went to marketing.
Right.
So my background is elementary education and marketing, but I'd never graduated. So I was 2 semesters away from graduating. I got this big paycheck, which was more than I'd probably made the year probably the year before, right? I still have that check.
Doing something that you love.
This was fun, yeah. And I never I didn't go into it with expectations.
Right.
And so it was really tough trying to juggle both school and doing that, because call centers is, really late at night. And so I just thought right then and there, well, it's going to be one or the other. I'm going to have to either dedicate myself to this. Like, why am I going to college? I'm going to college to find out what I want to do with my life. And I think I'm going to do this with my life. So I didn't go back to school. And I always thought, well, if it doesn't work out, I can always go back to school. I will say, if you have any young listeners out there, it's my biggest regret in life that I didn't just power through it and go those last 2 semesters and finish, but it's worked out so much.
I think you're doing just fine.
It's fine. I think it's fine.
I mean, some of the and again, I'm not advocating for people to drop out of college.
But I got what I needed out of college, right?
You did.
I'm so happy I went. I'm glad I went for 6 years and took more courses than I needed to. I think that's kind of the way you need to do college, right?
Right.
Not have an agenda, just take every class that looks fun and interesting to you.
And figure it out. See, I'm learning so much. This is crazy.
So if your daughter does that, you're like, no.
I'm still going to be the dad. I'm going to be like, what are you doing?
What's your major?
Yeah.
You got to know right now what you're going to do with the rest of your life.
I can't say too much, man. I didn't go to college. I knew very early on that I was not interested in, scholastic above and beyond what I needed to do. And so I graduated high school. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget, like, at that point in my life, my dad asked me, because he was always the self-employed entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah? Okay,
yeah,
there you go. So
he asked me, and he goes, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I'm typical, 17, 18-year-old kid. And I think I'm going to go to college and, take my basics and try to figure it out. And, he knew that wasn't going to work.
And he wasn't going to pay for that.
And he wasn't going to pay for it. And he was just like, son, you can go learn how to be a cop, because I was interested in law enforcement at the time, or I can teach you how the world works.
What did he do?
He had this business. So in his early life, he did a lot. Like, he was a race car driver back in the day before, like, pre-NASCAR, when they were doing dirt tracks. Mm-hmm. He was deputy sheriff, but he only worked with people that had to be checked into, like, mental hospitals. So he would go and pick them up and take them to the most dangerous people in his, like, area. Mm-hmm. He was the guy who would go out and collect them and then take them to the hospital. Mm. And his whole thing was, when he would tell me his stories, is he never wore a gun. And he drove an unmarked car, right? Because the last thing somebody with any kind of mental mm-hmm. thing going on, they're volatile already. They're already violent. You see a cop car and a guy walking up with a gun, there's just too many bad things that could happen. Mm-hmm. So he would always, he drove an old station wagon, and he never carried a gun. And then from there, he kind of parlayed into business, and he started his own business, and he was very successful. And I think there was an economic downturn in like the 80s that kind of took him out. And so he never fully recovered from that. But at that point, that's when we moved from Virginia to Laredo, Texas, complete polar opposite sides of the spectrum, right? And he was still self-employed because he wasn't going to go get no regular job. But it was always about, pave your way, mm-hmm. right? Pave your own way. Even if you're not going to have your own business, be your own boss, kind of a thing. And, he was actually, like, obviously, as I think it is for a lot of people, he was my earliest mentor. Mm-hmm. So, but he passed away when I was very young, but luckily, I had some time between graduation to, like, my early 20s to where he got me to spend time with him, whether I wanted to or not. Oh. And so he passed
good.
A lot
I
to me.
don't feel so bad then making my kids.
No, you got to. Like, it's one of those things, like, the lessons they don't want to learn usually are the ones that they're going to remember forever.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So then that's kind of what led me into sales from there. Because, I remember he was always the guy who was, he could sweet talk anybody he wants to. Even if he hated your guts, you thought he loved you.
Oh.
It sounds terrible, but, he was that guy. Like, he was very charismatic.
Well, it's good that you got to see that, right? To be exposed to that, because most people are not. I find, like, later in life when I would tell people, I'm commission only, it sort of freaks people out. Like, how can you?
Oh, yeah.
And I think if you only know that, if you only know getting a paycheck every week, it would freak you out to be 100% commission. But I don't know anything else. And I'm lucky I did it when I was young. Like, just young and stupid. Like, okay, yeah. I didn't have anybody in my family that was self-employed, so I could see that. If I had, maybe I would have run away from it, because there's a lot of ups and downs.
Sure.
It can be really scary. Like you said, you saw your dad never recover. Some people would run away from that and go, I need stability. I need a regular paycheck.
And there was a point where I thought I needed that, right? When I was young, and that's why I was looking at what I was looking at. But, especially after, like, I started my sales career. Well, actually, he started my sales career back in a flea market. Okay, but that's a whole other story for a whole other podcast. But it got to a point where I was getting good at sales in that environment, and so that actually led to my first, like, what I call my first W-2 job, and it was in sales, and it was selling mobile homes.
Oh, okay.
You want some boot camp sales training?
My mom worked at a mobile home.
Man.
She was like a receptionist or something at a mobile home dealership for a long time. So I remember when I was really young, just like running around.
Dude, that is some sales right there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Some hard sales.
Some sales.
Well, you're basically selling a car. It's the prices of a car, and it's just as,
Yeah.
Speaking from a girl who grew up living in trailers, they don't last much longer than cars. They're about the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, but I tell you what, I could spin it to look like gold back in those days.
And imagine how those people would do in the mortgage business, right? Like
We do pretty good. I've known multiple people actually who come from that background.
Well, here's what I will say, because I'm also a manager, a regional manager, and you work with other people. There have been people that have come into this business, and I've seen thinking they were going to be great because they were great salespeople, but honest salespeople, right? Mm-hmm. Not, what is it? Silver-tongued devils. Really, like, I like them. I would buy a car from them. But they can't get the technical side of it. Yeah. And I feel like sales in this business really is only 25% of it. You have to know what you're doing. And there's so many I can't even explain to somebody, if I'm trying to train them, everything you need to know. It just has to come up.
Right.
You have to just be doing this for 15 years to know the questions you need to ask, to be able to see,
Or you got to have that mentor.
You gotta have the mentor. Yeah, so I think you can be so good at sales and really blow it in this industry.
One of my earliest mentors when I got into mortgage was my processor.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the broker I went to work for. It was the processor who worked my files.
Mm-hmm.
She was the one who would literally slap me in the back of the head a couple times. Like, dude, what are you thinking?
Oh, no. So I was a wholesale rep. So I'd started out in the call center.
Right.
Very quickly, it was meatheads. I was, they'd leave to go to the gym for 3 hours.
Did you have to yell Recco when you got a deal? Tell me you yelled Recco.
I think they had a bell. They did have a bell, and now it's really sad. But like the next year, I was the branch manager. It wasn't that hard in this environment to excel. Like you just wanted any kind of responsibility.
Yeah.
You got it, right? And then my regional manager left and went to wholesale and recruited me over and said, you're wasting your talents in retail. You got to come to wholesale. And I didn't know what wholesale was. What does that mean? But, my strengths were in the guidelines, right? So I think he knew I was going to be successful in wholesale. But coming from a call center, you basically, and I was new to it, so you take a 1003 and you move on, and they do everything for you. Well, then I came into wholesale, and I had an account manager, kind of like a processor, right?
Right.
And I would put this is back before you were paperless. You'd stack the files.
Oh, my God.
And you'd FedEx them out, right? You would literally take your, printing and stacking.
Sounds like Wells Fargo.
And I would FedEx them to my account manager. And she, a couple times, the first couple times would call me, like, Tara, this is not acceptable. This, and I'm, yeah, I'm the salesperson. I got the business in. You got the file, deal with it. I started coming home and literally there'd be FedEx packages on my door.
She'd send them back?
She'd send them right back.
Oh, I love this woman already.
I call my manager. He's like, look, she's our best account manager. You can't piss her off. So whatever Letitia, I still remember, tells you to do, you do it. And she trained me. And thank God she did. Because I'd still be out there just swinging,
swinging wild.
Having everybody do there are definitely loan officers that do that, right?
God, yeah.
They come in and they just want to take a 1003 and move on.
On a napkin.
Thank God I'm not like that. Thank God I am so detail oriented, and they made me do that, because can you imagine the amount of stress those people have in their lives not knowing?
Oh, no. I've had a few, right? Like, this is your application. There you go. And just for those that you can't see it, I just threw it against the wall.
Well, is he part-time or full-time? Well, I don't know. I got a 2-year... Well, you didn't ask if he's part-time or
right. Where are they getting their down payment from?
Yeah. Okay, I see child support.
The
but
mattress.
How old are their kids? 17 and 18. Well, what? You're using child support. Why don't you ask follow-up questions? Follow-up questions.
Well,
they're so important.
And again, being a guy who did that at first, I had to learn. And even when I thought I had learned, I was lucky that later on in the career, I had another processor who really taught me how to take a 1003. And again, it was, had it not been for her, I'd be pulling my hair out.
Oh, I think the best thing you can do in this industry, probably any industry, is surround yourself with people smarter than you. I have a team of women. I call my harem of women that take care of me. I have an assistant that's been with me for 10 years.
Nice.
Sometimes I think she's smarter than me. I have, my processor that definitely, in some cases, is smart. You have to, and those are my people, and they'll be with me, anywhere I go. I'm not me without them, right?
Right.
Because it's not just us that does what we do. You have to have the best processor in the business. You have to have the best underwriters,
I tell people all the time, man, hey, look, don't come to, like, if you come to me with a question and I don't know the answer, just, I'll look for it. But don't expect me to have all of those answers. I'm not, I live a few thousand feet off the ground to a certain point because of the territory and all that fun stuff. But at the end of the day, yeah, like I've been fortunate, just like you. Like I've got some really good people to where, like, if I'm bringing somebody new in, you know, it's not just on you to train that person. Like you've got that team that can surround them and help them and stuff.
Right.
So.
And I always gravitated to the smartest person in the room. So I'm still friends with people that are at other companies.
Yeah.
That you can still, and they do the same thing with me, right? They still call you up and go, "This is what I have.
Yeah.
What do you think?"
What are your
Sometimes
thoughts?
you just need to hear somebody else say, "No, I can't make that work either," before you go.
Before you let it go?
Before you let it go, yeah.
So how long were you in wholesale?
It went by like that. So I got in subprime.
What year was that again?
Heyday. God, I don't even know. I was.
I got into subprime in like 2004.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who were you with?
I was with a company called Fremont.
I've heard of Fremont.
Yeah, they were out of California. Loved them. They were amazing.
I was with Mila.
With Mila?
Yeah. Well, but see, I didn't live in Austin then.
I never heard of Mila. I was gonna say, you guys did not have a big presence out here.
Did you ever run into Mike Minchek?
Yeah, that name sounds familiar.
He was Mila. He was our Mila rep for Austin. But anyway, I'm sorry. I'm interrupting.
No, I know. We all talk about the heydays of the subprime.
Oh, dude.
When we were in it, I loved subprime. I think we all have this black mark on our resume now. But we weren't as devious as everybody painted us out to be. We were just following the guidelines that were given to us by the investors, i.e. Wall Street.
Right.
They gave them to us. Hey, we're going to do 580 stated, and you would go out and sell it because somebody at Lehman Brothers said they were going to buy a loan at 580 stated. Well, then all of a sudden we got paid as demons out there selling these 580 Why were you giving people? Well, look, I always say, I was raised up in subprime. I didn't know any better. I learned what DTI and LTV was looking at guidelines that we had stated 560 credit score. So I just thought this is the way it is, right?
Yeah.
Now looking back on it, I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy, some of the stuff we did. Bank statements with 500 NSFs, or really, a landscaper that just has 3-letter references. Remember those?
Yes.
But that's all I knew. I was raised in it, and that's all I knew. So just, I always take offense to, we weren't doing anything
I wasn't out there
devious.
trying to harm people.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, this is who we are. This is what we do. And for us, like the company I was with, our big thing is we were tech before tech was like popular in wholesale.
Oh, there was no tech in my company.
Oh man, no. Like I never did a prequel.
See, I would stay up at night handwriting. So I think that's also where I got my chops, right? It is, and that's why I had an assistant. That's where I got my chops. I mean, everything I did in this business that built me to here was the call center, right? The call center. If I tell anybody, if you want to learn this business, go work in a call center for a year, That'll teach you some stuff, because just the volume of loans you're going to work on, stuff's going to pop up.
Yeah.
Right. And then I was a wholesale rep, and as a wholesale rep, you're grading everybody's credit report. So I just became an expert at grading credit report, because we didn't have tech. It was like, send me your credit report. I'll read it. I will dissect it and tell you. I can tell you a person's life story by looking at their credit report. I'm like, oh, they got married here, and then they quit school here, and then things kind of dropped off here. That you can.
I bet they changed jobs here.
Yeah, exactly.
This is where they got the raise, because they added this.
Your whole life story is on there, and then we would handwrite rate sheets and then fax them back. Right. That was. And then you'd stack the file and go through it. But we didn't have DU and subprime, right? Ooh. Remember, so, A-paper reps had it so easy. They'd be like, oh, I don't know, go run DU. What do the guidelines say? What does Fannie and Freddie say? Well, for us, it was a book of guidelines, and it was a mountain of exceptions on top of those guidelines, right? And then you handwrite the thing. So, again, my 2 years in wholesale also, that built me for who I was. But I was in wholesale with Fremont for 2 years. Best job I ever had. At the time, I remember complaining about it all the time, and I look back and go, what the hell was I thinking? It was the best job I ever had. And then I've got a funny story there, because I was in Maui on my President's Club trip in 2007. My son was 6 months old, and I the first night, the big luau, CEO, owner of the company, I call it the come and drink the Kool-Aid meeting, because it was everything's great. Yes, New Century shut down last week, but this is why we're great. This is why everything's going to be great. I drank the Kool-Aid. And then the next day, we were on an excursion, some volcano somewhere. My phone's blowing up. Your website's down. What's going on? We can't get a hold of funders. And
no.
What are you talking about? But they just told us last night everything's great. Well, I don't know. Let me call you back. So I got back to the hotel. There's a note under the door. All the events have been canceled for the week. There's a meeting at 5 o'clock. So we go in this meeting in this small room with everybody in there. And everybody's gone. CEO's gone. Owner of the company. It's like little mid-level managers, not even regionals.
Right.
Just like
they don't
area.
took the jet back.
And we don't know what's going to happen. We're shut down for the week. I mean, it's literally that, mortgage implode. But it happened to me on my President's Club trip in Maui. Yeah. Oh. And you don't know. And you're like, wait a minute. They just told me last night that everything's great.
Mine was nowhere near that brutal.
And my son was 6 months old. And I was young. I was like 28, 29 in the business, making more money than I'd ever thought I was going to make. I thought, it's only going to go up from here.
Yeah.
This is so much fun. I love what I do. Oh, wait a minute. Not only, I just lost my job. I'm at my high, right? I'm in Maui. I'd never been to Maui before. Yep. I'm at my President's Club trip in Maui, and I'm at the high. And then not only did I lose my job, but my industry's crumbling around me. And remember, I don't have a college degree.
Yep.
So that was the craziest year. I mean, I sort of bounced around to another subprime company that also exited the business really quick, and then I did what everybody does when they don't have a book of business, and I went to Wells Fargo.
There you go. Dun, 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 dun.
Wells Fargo. I did my time.
That's exactly how I refer to it.
I did my time at the big banks. I looked around and thought, I have so much experience. Mm-hmm. I work with all these brokers in town, and I'm smarter than all of them because I'm 28. I'm really,
Hey, you got the world on a string, girl.
World, yeah, I look back at that now and think, that's so funny. But what am I going to do? I don't have a book of business. I've been B2B. Because when we moved to, I was in Houston at the call center. Oh, okay. So when I moved to Austin, I'd only been B2B. I'd only been wholesale.
Gotcha.
So I had no book of business. So I went and did my time and stayed probably a little bit longer than I should have.
Yeah.
At Wells Fargo for 2.5 years. I always say I felt like I was leaving an abusive relationship when I left. Like I was getting beat up every day. I was literally in tears because I'd be so angry that nobody cared, that none of my files were closing on time.
That nobody cared, and then when you would get your check, right?
Yeah. At the end of it, they were taking money out of our checks for rate lock extensions. Oh. When they weren't able to close loans in 90 days, we'd have to extend them, and they were taking the rate lock extensions out of our paycheck because somehow that was our fault that you couldn't close a refi in 90 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it was awful, right? I mean, but
see, I did Wells before wholesale, so I did Wells for I think it was like a year and a half, and
I was 2.5. See, I stayed longer than I should have.
Yeah, I was done at a year, but I mean, I was doing well enough, like the lights were on and the bills were paid, that because back then, this is back when Wells, this is 2004, right? So Wells had a subprime loan officer division. And so all I did is I partnered with the #1 A-paper rep in San Antonio, and I would get all her fallout. And they were so conservative, blah, blah, blah. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to dog Wells, but all you mortgage folks know. But anyway, so I was doing okay. I wasn't making what I wanted. And just like you, this wholesale rep, who I would send my deals to, he finally tells me, he's like, hey, you're from Laredo, right? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, so you speak Spanish? I'm like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was like, well, we're getting ready to hire somebody for that whole southern corridor. You should do that. Mm-hmm. And I remember well, what is it? He was like, and that's when he kind of he gave me the Cliff Notes version. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. I'll do that. Now, this was my first mistake. I didn't talk it over with my wife. Right.
Because you were going to be traveling now, right?
I was going to be traveling, but also I was going to make 6 figures working from home and traveling once a month. Mm-hmm. Right?
Mm-hmm.
My wife couldn't. My wife was like, "You what? Like you already took the. Don't ever do that again, right?" And I never have, and that was wrong on me. But just like you said, it was like the best time. I mean, not from, it was a big huge party, but
it was. I had
was
ridiculous expense accounts. It was a fun job, but here's what it got. It was not fun really quick. So right after Fremont, and remember the website Mortgage Implode, literally every day.
Lived on that for a while.
Right, yeah. I remember going around to offices that I loved. That was my favorite part of the job, outside sales. Just how's it going? Even if you're not going to give me a deal, I just loved, being out and about. And I would go into offices and there'd be not a soul in there.
Crickets.
Yeah, there'd be desks, and I just remember walking into offices that I loved. That were like my end of day stops. Like I could always just talk, and they would be empty, or there'd be like two guys in there, and they just were depressing. It was just this, and I just thought, all right, I need to get out of wholesale. Like I can keep scraping, or I can just go get my own business and stop trying to like be depressed that these guys are so depressed. But I will say, I went to Wells Fargo, and at the time I felt like, what am I doing? But it was the best time. It was 2007, 2008. Where better to be than Wells Fargo, because it was this refi boom. So I went from not having a book of business to like phones ringing off the hook.
Right.
So over 2.5 years, I developed a book of business, right? And then I leave Wells Fargo with my database, which I tell people all the time. That's what you live on, is your database. If you do nothing else in this business, the only advice I can give you is when you start out, save a database, like the first loan you ever did, and then work your database, right? Whether you have 10 people and you're calling them once every couple months, or you have 10,000 people.
Right.
I didn't start keeping my database until Wells Fargo.
Nice.
But, and I still have that, but I wish I'd kept it a little bit earlier at the call center, because I had good relationships, but I just didn't. When I was young, I didn't really think about cultivating those relationships and keeping. It was like a one-time shot. I didn't think like, I'm going to close. The same people are going to come back to me.
Right. Year
after year, they're going to refer their children to me. Like I wasn't thinking long-term business plan like that.
You were playing small ball.
Yeah, and so your database is so. So I, the one thing I got from Wells Fargo was my database, and I was in a safe place at a really unsafe time. I mean, it was still scary, right? We had people coming in, bringing their keys, turning their keys over.
Really?
Right, because it's 2008. There's I had more. So at one point, I had more people coming in, trying to ask me about modifications or foreclosures than asking me about refinances.
Really?
Yeah, so it was also kind of a scary place to be at Wells Fargo, because you're sort of ground zero. So there's all these refis, and then so you have all this business, and then there's just all this really sad stuff coming on.
The other side of that.
The other side of that, yeah. People coming in, dropping their keys. It was really like, oh my gosh. But, we've all come out of that. So I left Wells Fargo, and I think after that I went to go work for Chris at MetLife.
Yeah, Blevy.
Yeah.
My boss.
Yes.
He just did a podcast with me about a week and a half ago.
What does he have to say?
It's funny, like, because Chris, man, he's adamantly bashful to a certain point. He's so bashful.
Uh-huh.
And literally, I had to do him like what I did to you is just like, look, just play with it. Like, here, just put it right.
Give him space.
Yeah, and then like next thing you know, it's like we've been recording for 5 minutes or something.
Yeah.
But he did great. I mean, same thing. He talked about his story, and he's very, he's a very humble dude.
Mm-hmm.
So like, he's not, like he's just, it's about the team, it's about this, it's about that.
Chris has that very quintessential manager personality,
He
where
does.
he's just low key, never gets excited, so he could manage me well, because I would be over here like, and he's, Tara, we're just gonna, and
right.
Sometimes it was infuriating and like, get mad with me, aren't you? But that's what you need in a manager, and he was always like, what I needed. So it feels comfortable working for managers like that. If you're good at your job, you really don't need a manager for the day-to-day stuff on your files, right? You develop the relationships with the underwriters on your own, but you need sort of that calming influencing
that
you.
person who can be like, okay, let's light a candle.
Tara,
have some chai tea.
Yeah, I'm getting calls from the ops center. They said you're not allowed to call them anymore. I think Chris has had to have that talk with me, or
Well, then he must have learned on you on how to kind of deal with me, because there have been times where it's like he and I will not be in complete accordance. Like I'll feel passionately about something and he has an opposing opinion, and I'll be there like, but look, man, you don't understand. Like, we got to do it.
Don't understand.
We got to go.
Oh.
Are you not seeing this? Like, we got to go. We got to do this.
I remember.
Look, man, this is all I'm saying, Bob. This is all I'm saying. He's just like real mellow, and he wears you down.
He does wear you down. I remember, and this is not the best side of me, or I feel proud of this, but look, we're all like this. I remember yelling, like, demanding that a certain processor be fired. Like,
I've heard that one before.
Oh, did you hear that story, or just
no? No,
this is unacceptable. And if you keep her, and I literally remember him on the other phone going, "Yeah, okay, Tara. Well, we'll talk about that tomorrow." And I hung up so angry, but he was right. We talked about it the next day or whatever, and that processor and I actually became really good friends, and we ended up, but he didn't get all fired up with me and sort of take my side. It was just this, okay, and I was, you need to fire her. No, we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah, he's definitely, I've learned a lot from that dude. I love him to death, man. And now it's like with what he's doing, he's over Texas and Oklahoma.
Oh.
So he's just like, I love him, but I try not to bug him too much, because he's on a plane.
Yeah.
He's got, he's
that's
getting
no fun. This industry can be fun, and the traveling managers, I always think, have the worst of it.
Yeah, I think he's having fun. I mean, it's definitely work. Don't get me wrong, but he'll come into town. He'll bring Tammy. Did you ever meet Tammy?
No, but I've heard a lot about her.
He'll bring Tammy, and he and her and me and my wife will go like hit dinner at Esther's Follies and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not just pie charts and bar graphs.
I don't know that Chris has ever.
I don't think.
I don't think he's a pie chart kind of guy.
No.
He's definitely not a numbers stats guy, which is the other thing I like to work.
He's a BIPS guy.
Well, yeah, but it's not how many applications did you. I don't think he micromanages. Let's put it that way, or at least he never micromanaged me. But I don't really.
Well, the one thing he would tell me about you is that he never had to. So. You just had to be there when you needed him, kind of a thing, kind of like what you described.
Just calm me down. Yeah, but that was a long time ago, at least 4 years ago.
Right.
I'm totally.
You have discovered Buddha.
I've matured.
You're sitting there Indian style in the chair, dude. I know, it's like
barefoot.
You've been meditating and this is how I'm going to get through this podcast. Well, so how are you doing over there? Are you having fun so far?
I am.
You're an hour and 2 minutes into this thing already.
Yeah, I talk.
I love it. You're officially the longest podcast we've done.
Oh God, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know I believe that.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it in.
Okay.
All right. And what are your any final thoughts or anything you want to share before we wrap up?
No, this was not as bad as I was expecting it to be.
As bad, dude. You're supposed to be like, this is the bomb.
I was very nervous.
Yeah.
And this was a lot easier to just kind of get through.
I'm glad to hear that.
Sorry I dragged you down a bunch of different roads.
That's
had nothing to do with mortgage.
You took me exactly where I wanted to go.
But it was fun. Thanks
awesome.
for talking.
Well, I think we're going to, I smell a follow-up episode, because I think you got a lot more to say.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think there's a lot more behind the curtain.
That would be like my tagline. I have a lot more to say. Yeah, I think that's definitely very true of Terra Gilbert. It's just a lot more to say. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Hey, real quick, no cell phones. Not big on letting people give out their cell phone on this. But if somebody wanted to reach out to you and connect, how would they do so?
So www.loansbytera is my website.
Which might be changing.
No, I'll keep that. I'll just get two different, and then T. Gilbert at newpennfinancial.com, because New Penn Financial is
your parent
company. Yeah, newpennfinancial.com.
Gotcha.
But loansbytera.com is pretty easy.
There you go. You heard it here, man. Make sure you reach out and show Tera Gilbert some love, everybody. And thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Big B Mortgage Podcast. If you enjoyed it, give us a like, give us a share, leave me some comments, let me know what we're doing well. If not, if anything, just stay social, everybody. Have a good one.